Things just took a scary turn as we are now just a couple weeks away from opening day. A wild new report dropped late last night into this morning surrounding Jose Berríos and his health that not only greatly affects this team and their rotation heading into opening day, but also provides some very scary updates surrounding the future of him in the Toronto Blue Jays uniform. We're going to break down these updates and discuss what it means going forward. But not only that, we also have a ton of other things, including Vladimir Guerrero Jr. absolutely dominating in the World Baseball Classic. But folks, there is a lot of updates to go over today, and I didn't expect to have to make this video because things just took a very scary turn. Before we get into it, a very quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. If you're excited for opening day, it's right around the corner, 2 weeks, I believe, from today. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Folks, let's dive right into it. A report dropped late last night that was a little bit scary, very scary, actually, no matter what way you diced it. So Keegan Matson came out and revealed that Jose Berríos is dealing with some different inflammation now in his throwing elbow. A test for WBC insurance initially showed something, so the Blue Jays did their own MRI, but John Schneider stressed that Berríos feels good and will continue throwing, but he won't start today. So all of this kind of elevated when a report dropped a couple days ago that Berríos is going to miss his start for the World Baseball Classic, and then some people were thinking, Jose Berríos is a guy who is as consistent as they come. Like, he's a beast, especially when it comes to innings pitch. What's he missing, or what's the injury? There is something going on with his elbow, which is really bad. Now, the good news is, supposedly, I'm going to dive into some of the comments, like he's feeling okay a little bit and things like that. This is not good news because all of a sudden now, the Jays rotation that looked very, very deep and still is deep is going to have that depth tested. Now, I do want to clarify here. He tells us that he feels good, but also called the elbow inflammation strange to hear about after the MRI, and he hopes to make his next start, but he says that missing the pool play was the toughest as that was in his home of Puerto Rico, and he wanted to pitch in front of his family. But folks, this had some fans very concerned, and that's ultimately warranted. Now, he's been saying he's feeling great. He feels good throwing the ball. Hope he can, of course, return to the mound. But at the same time, you have to keep it real because you look at the spring training stats thus far. Berríos has looked very, very good. Overall, the team has looked, in pretty darn good shape. But also, I'm not going to sit here and act like an elbow issue isn't concerning. Now, you can see this here. A couple people started, reacting pretty hard on Twitter with Trey Savage being limited early on and Jose Berríos basically cooked with an elbow issue. I'm not ready to go that far yet, but regardless, it is very scary. This is the Blue Jays rotation now. So let's assume Berríos misses opening day, which again, he's planning to make his next start, the WBC, all these different things. I'm not saying he's going to be cooked, but and Keegan Matson made a tweet yesterday. He basically said, the good news is he's feeling okay. The bad news is anytime anyone talks about an elbow, it is very concerning, especially for Jose Berríos and what his future is in Toronto Blue Jays uniform, because of course his contract doesn't have much time left. But the lineup would be, or the rotation rather, would be Cease, Gausman, Ponce, Scherzer, Savage, Lauer, piggyback, and all of a sudden now your depth is going to be tested. You had to rely on 42-year-old, 41-year-old Max Scherzer. You're going to have to rely on Cody Ponce, who hasn't pitched really any substantive innings in the big leagues, and you're in a good shape. That's why you get Dylan Cease. And of course, you still have Shane Bieber, who's going to be hopefully returning. Hopefully, Jose Berríos returns. But all of a sudden now your depth is getting tested if Berríos is going to miss any amount of time. But even if he isn't, this is an ongoing situation where you're going to have to actually heavily pay attention to it. And you can see here from Ian Hunter, just 10 games left in spring training. And with this new Berríos development and the slow buildup of Savage, looks like the Jays could roll out a rotation of Cease, Gausman, Scherzer, Ponce, and Lauer to start, which isn't the end of the world, right? We were thinking about Eric Lauer, and I called potentially for a trade. I was wrong on that front because this is why you always want to kind of have depth, but it is true. And I'm not ready. Again, I want to clarify. He says that he is feeling great. Anytime you do an MRI that talks about elbow issues, you're in a very, very, scary situation. Of course, you worry about Tommy John, you worry about anything there. They're going to have to be super, super cautious with him, and that might mean, missing opening day. Could mean he might be fine, right? Updates might come out over the next week, but regardless, it is a scary turn. Now, in the same vein here, again, I'm going to bring this up because we look at what he's done in spring training. He's pitched 10 innings, and of course, Cody Ponce has looked great in spring training. Everyone has looked very, very good. And I just want to take a minute here. I mean, we're talking about Max Scherzer, somebody who wasn't supposed to even be on the team a month ago, and then of course it got signed, and people were talking about May and June. The Jays have so much time, they have so much depth in the rotation, it's not a problem. We're now all of a sudden talking about a guy who we're going to need in Max Scherzer to actually start opening weekend. So bit of a scary turn here. At the end of the day, we're going to keep you up to date. But Keegan Matson did drop an article talking about what it means going forward. And he says what this means to the Blue Jays rotation. 9 times out of 10, the solution to these log jams in the big leagues is that it will all take care of itself eventually. But given the rate of pitcher injuries and the unpredictable nature of performances from year to year, these things always have a way of falling into place. And he also goes on to say that would leave a rotation depending on what happens. And let's assume, and keep in mind here, this is from Keegan Matheson. Smart front offices don't assume any best case scenarios. So for now, let's work under the ideas that Berríos may not be ready. That leaves with the rotation I just mentioned there. And if anything, would open up a bullpen spot where Angel Bastardo has impressed. So keep in mind now, Tommy Nance is also out of options. I mean, regarding Bieber, I covered it yesterday. Like, he hasn't thrown off a mound yet, so it might be a month plus of buildup for when that time comes. So Keegan Matheson talking about Bieber now. He's going to be at least a month away. Hopefully, they'll be better than that. But you can see this rotation, and by then, this rotation will have changed shapes in other ways we weren't expecting. Of course, he's talking about for by the month after the season. But with just over 2 weeks until opening day, this depth is already needed. And boy, is it ever, because, whether you like or hate José Berríos, he is an innings eater. Last year, despite his up and down year, missed a couple starts due to injury, or I think his first start of his career due to injury. I think he missed 1 or 2 games. 166 innings, 4.17 ERA, but he is an innings eater. And you lose Chris Bassett. Of course, you replaced all the guys, rightfully so. But you have now Cease and Gausman, who they're going to rely heavily on. Cody Ponce, who you suddenly need heavily. Max Scherzer, you all of a sudden need heavily. All these different guys. It's not the most ideal situation to be in. So let me know down below what your thoughts are on that. A pretty scary turn of events. One that you can never really expect. No one really predicts these injuries, but not ideal, especially for his future with the Jays. Given what happened in the World Series, there was a bit of animosity there between the fan base. I mean, according to reports, between him and the team and the front office as well. But that seems to have subsided. Sorry, and now we're talking about, of course, an injury. But let's move into some positive news, and that is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He is mashing in the WBC. He is 6 for 9 in his last 10 plate appearances with a 2144 OPS. I'm gonna have a full video covering Vladdy. Unbelievable. He hasn't hit a ball below 100 miles per hour in his last 10 plate appearances. He is a generational talent, but something people aren't talking enough about is him in this upcoming year. If he has a even better year than last year, similar to his 2021 season, this team can go even further. You pair that with Okamoto, you pair that with Jesus Sanchez. The ceiling is higher than last year on the offensive side, and I think it's higher on the the defensive side definitely the defensive side now that Bo Bichette's off short, but also in the starting pitching department, the bullpen. I'm excited for it. I'm also excited for Mason Flaherty. Now, I've been adamant on this channel about getting another bullpen arm, specifically a lefty, but he's been throwing some insane stuff in spring training. You can see here some of his advanced analytics. Feel free to pause. I know it's a little bit blurry, but feel free to check out the Pitch Profiler on Twitter. He does some great work and provides some good advanced analytics. Moral of the story here, he is working with nasty stuff, and that's something he has to do in order to keep up what has been an up and down year last year, but keep up kind of the high points of his season last season. But folks, baseball's right around the corner. WBC's going on. Team Canada's playing, I believe, today. So tons of exciting things. We'll keep you up to date every step of the way. You guys are absolute beasts.
Just when the calm of spring training began to lull fans into optimism, the baseball gods decided to whisper something unsettling into Toronto's ear. With opening day looming on the horizon like a sunrise everyone has been waiting for, a troubling report has suddenly cast a shadow over the Blue Jays' rotation. Late last night, news surfaced that José Berríos is dealing with inflammation in his throwing elbow. And although the word inflammation may sound harmless, in baseball it echoes through clubhouses like distant thunder. Here on the Blue Jays Report, we're breaking down exactly what this means and why the situation has fans holding their breath. Before we go any further, if you're excited for the season ahead, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Blue Jays Report. Opening day is just around the corner, and trust me, the storylines are already writing themselves. According to recent updates, the issue first surfaced during medical testing connected to the World Baseball Classic. That discovery led the Blue Jays to conduct their own MRI, prompting caution from the organization. Manager John Schneider has insisted that Berríos feels good and will continue throwing, yet the simple fact that elbow concerns exist at all has understandably sent a ripple of anxiety through the fan base. And the concern isn't without reason. Berríos has long been the dependable engine of Toronto's pitching staff, the kind of pitcher who quietly eats innings and steadies the rotation when chaos threatens. Losing him, even temporarily, would force the Blue Jays to lean heavily on names like Kevin Gausman, Dylan Cease, and the veteran Max Scherzer, whose experience is vast, but whose years on the mound are equally long. Suddenly, what once looked like enviable pitching depth feels more like a carefully balanced tower that must not wobble. Yet baseball has a peculiar way of balancing fear with hope. While this development raises questions, the team still boasts remarkable talent across the roster. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., for instance, has been tearing through the World Baseball Classic with the kind of thunderous authority that makes baseballs look personally offended. His bat has been roaring louder than a stadium crowd, reminding everyone that when he's locked in, the entire sport seems to orbit around his swing. So, yes, the Berríos situation is unsettling, and the coming weeks will demand patience and caution. But if baseball has taught us anything, it's that adversity often sharpens a team's resolve. Keep your eyes on Toronto, because the season ahead may still hold moments of brilliance, drama, and redemption. And as the countdown to opening day continues, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Blue Jays Report. Opening day is just around the corner, and trust me, the storylines are already writing themselves.